All right, I'd like to call to order Town Council public hearing and regular meeting, October 17th, 2024, Cape Charles Civic Center. Could I get a roll call, please?
Buckles present.
Holloway present.
Bennett present.
Yuta present.
Grossman present.
Let it be known we've established a quorum, and if we could please rise for a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was probably the best timing ever.
All right, perfect. All right, we'll start off with a public hearing for, on the subjects of zoning map amendment applications 711 Tazewell and real property transactions required to connect new wells to water treatment plant under the post-closing and franchise agreements with Virginia American Water. I believe we have one comment.
That's public hearing B.
Oh, I'm sorry.
A is the zoning amendment.
Oh, okay, so we'll do, I did both at the same time, but is there anything on the zoning map?
Yes.
Okay.
We have 5 signed up. First one is Mark Guthrie. We go to the property.
I have to give it to him.
Good evening. I'm here to basically ask that the council consider the precedent that's set when we modify zoning, zoning regulations and zones in our ordinance about what can be located where. Once we open the door and make exceptions, then we have to make the same exception, I think, for most other people that might want to apply for the same, and I think that is causing some consternation. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is Ed Wells.
I'm Ed Wells at 202 Strawberry Street. I'm here pretty much in favor of what Mark just said. I'm opposed to the R1 zoning in the historic district. I do not believe it fits into the comp plan, and I'd like to know if the town attorney was asked about the possible spot zoning issue. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Joe Bronson.
Good evening. Joe Bronson, 515 Tazewell. I want to express my opinion related to the request of the Fig Street Inn to change their zoning designation from R1 to C1. After reviewing the documents submitted by the applicant, I am not in favor of changing the zoning for this lot for the following reasons. And I think one is just kind of obvious. It's absolutely not necessary. You can modify the applicant's existing special use or conditional permit to add a bicycle rental usage to their existing land use. They may also want to request a special use permit to operate the gift shop that's on their premises as well. The second reason, every single residential structure in Cape Charles is zoned R1, including residential homes, STR businesses, the Bayhaven Inn, and the Alyssa House Inn. The only exception is the Northampton Inn, which is inexplicably zoned Harbor District, and the Bay Charles Building at 102 Randolph. 3, every surrounding lot of the Fig Street Inn is zoned R1. Any commercial C1 lot in proximity to the subject parcel is used as an actual commercial use, a pharmacy, a golf cart rental, beverage distributor, etc., not residential use. And I think this is my biggest one. 4, allowing a residential use business to change zoning from R1 to C1 will open the door for any one of the STR businesses peppered through the residential area to change to C1 at will. And I don't think this is advantageous to anybody. Again, it is absolutely not necessary to change the zoning, grant the applicant a special use or conditional permit for the bicycle rental and gift shop, and leave zoning alone. retain the zoning for the adjacent neighbors, and retain the zoning to eliminate the precedent that would be set for all other R1 residential properties currently used as STR businesses in town. Thank you.
Just a point of order. Your initial statement indicated the request was to change from R1 to C1. It's actually from R1 to CR.
Oh, CR, okay, I'm sorry.
Dennis Sadat?
Dennis Sadat, I live at 116 Fig Street. I'm talking about the opposition to the change to the zoning for several reasons.
Oops, sorry about that.
My first thing is that the fact that it's not, I think, advantageous to the community to change it. It changes the whole structure of the community itself. All the surrounding residents, all the surrounding properties are all residential, and including what used to be the medical building was changed from whatever status that was, a commercial type status, to residential. I also live right there, and parking, I believe, would become a terrible issue if they added any kind of commercial type things to what they're looking at doing. They have a very small parking lot as it is, and overflow parking from all the STRs the very large STRs that are in the 600 block of Tazewell tend to overflow into that area as well. In their initial application, they were outlining to have a bike rental thing. That's not covered under the commercial residential, and they would, if they tried to do that, they would have to get some sort of special use permit in order to even do that. Once the zoning was changed to a commercial residential, it would end up staying that way until somebody maybe tried to turn it back. But it would also tend to set a precedent for other things that are around that area, such as like my house. If somebody came down the line and bought my house, they would have a bit of a precedent for setting that into a commercial residential or possibly even commercial. I purchased my home to be a residence, not a commercial type property. And actually, that's about all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bruce Evans?
Good evening. My name is Bruce Evans. I own the building at the corner of Tazewell and Fig, 652, 654 Tazewell Avenue. It's a fourplex, 2 one-bedroom, 1 bath, and 2 two-bedroom, 2-bath in the building. I mentioned when I spoke to the Planning Commission, in the block of Tazewell Avenue, there are 34 rooms for rent in that one block. And I think if you change this zoning, you're setting a precedent that you will regret forever. And not that short-term rentals are wrong, but I think we should have thought more about that before we made short-term rentals so available. I am totally opposed to this. It has nothing to do with the owners. We ran a bed and breakfast right down the street from them for years, and they're very good friends. But I think this is a very big mistake to pass this.
Thank you.
No one else has signed up, but I did receive one via email to read into the record. This is from Walter Bronson at 515 Tazewell Avenue. Mayor and Council, I am strongly in opposition to rezoning the Fig Street Inn from R1 residential to CR commercial residential. I certainly appreciate the Fig Street Inn. It is a well-run business that is beneficial to the community without causing undue hardship to its neighbors. I also do not object to the inn being permitted to offer bicycles for rent on the property, which would be a small incidental accessory use. However, rezoning of the property, even with the proffers, would still allow beauty and barber shops, clothing stores, day spas, florists, gift shops, offices, and real estate sales. And conditional uses including bakeries, cake and coffee shops, conference centers. These are not uses that belong in a residential zone. The town has spent a lot of time and money to establish appropriate zones within the town. Certain exceptions should always be considered. The uses as listed above would go well beyond that, however. A conditional use to allow the bicycle rental would be a more appropriate manner of allowing the requested use change. I do not understand why rezoning is being proposed as the more appropriate alternative. At the very least, the proffer should include every other use permitted, conditional or not, in the CR zone. Even then, it is the wrong way to go about this change. Rezoning to permit retail-type establishments in the residential area of the historic district is just wrong. Those uses belong in the commercial district on Mason Avenue, not on Fig Street. If we permit this lot to be rezoned, what is to prevent any other lot along Fig or perhaps anywhere in the R1 from being rezoned? How could you even deny them based on the precedent this would set? Please send this application back to the Planning Commission to approach this as a conditional use for bicycle rental or rezone with increased proffers to eliminate all other potential uses. It's the right thing to do for the neighbors, the traffic on Fig Street, and the R1 zone in general. Sincerely, Walter Bronson.
All right. B for public hearing, real property transactions required to connect new wells to the water treatment plant under the post-closing and franchise agreements with Virginia American Water. Are there any public comments?
Nobody has signed up and I did not receive anything.
All right. Can I get a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're going to go into the recognition, one of our own. This certificate of appreciation is awarded to Sharon Sylvie in recognition for 15 years of service to the Municipal Corporation of Cape Charles, October 26, 2009 to October 26, 2024. She's not here this evening, so I will give it to Mr. Hosey. Thank you. Okay, do we have any other public comments this evening?
Nobody has signed up, but I do have one that was submitted in writing.
Okay.
Okay, this is from Raphael Allen at 504 Plum Street. Dear Mayor, members of the Town Council, and Mr. Hosey, I'm writing to express my concerns about the proposed regulation limiting short-term rental occupancy to 2 persons per bedroom. While I understand the importance of maintaining order and safety in our community, I believe this proposal will have unintended consequences that could severely impact our local economy, residents, and homeowners. Our town thrives as a family-oriented vacation destination, with the vast majority of visitors being families seeking to enjoy our unique environment. A strict 2-person per bedroom limit would be overly restrictive and out of touch with the very nature of our vacation market, where multi-generational families and multiple families often travel together. This policy would drastically reduce the availability, affordability, and attractiveness of short-term rental properties in Cape Charles, as many families would find it impractical or impossible to rent in compliance with such a rule. I would like to highlight a few key points. Research shows better alternatives. I have investigated how some other localities have balanced rental occupancy while addressing concerns about overcrowding. Several towns have adopted a 2-person per bedroom maximum with an additional allowance of 2 to 3 persons, accounting for bunk rooms commonly used by multi-family vacationers and or large families. Another approach that has proven effective is permitting 1 room in the rental as a designated bunk room while still capping the other bedrooms at a 2-person occupancy. These solutions strike a balance by preventing overcrowding while still accommodating for larger groups that frequent our market. I urge you to consider these alternative models instead of imposing a one-size-fits-all restriction. 2, age restriction is impractical and overly limiting. I understand that the council intends to exclude children aged 5 or younger from the occupancy count as an attempt to allow for bunk rooms. However, this age limit is far too restrictive to address the reality of family travel, where older children, including teenagers, commonly share a bunk room, and even adult couples are willing to share these spaces for the sake of affordability. Limiting this to children under 5 overlooks how families travel and use short-term rental spaces. Furthermore, enforcing this rule will be difficult and costly for the town, potentially requiring additional staffing, which only adds to the financial burden. Worse yet, it risks turning full-time residents into self-appointed enforcers, potentially creating an unwelcoming and hostile environment for vacationers and vacation homeowners. 3, impact on local economy. Our local businesses, including retail stores and restaurants, depend heavily on tourism, and vacationers are town one true economy. By restricting the number of guests who can stay in short-term rentals, fewer families will be able to book stays, which will reduce the number of visitors to our town. This decrease in foot traffic will directly impact the few shops and residents we have, leading to a significant downturn in their revenue and the possible shuttering of these establishments. The ripple effect will also affect town and county revenue, as both rental taxes and sales taxes will decline.
All right.
Can I ask that that be sent to us?
Yes.
Prior to our short-term rental?
All right, so looking for approval of the agenda format, approval of the minutes, and approval of the July 31st, 2024, and August 31st, 2024 financial reports.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on those? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Unfinished business, we have none. All right, new business, zoning map amendment application 711 Tazewell Avenue.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
As you have done this evening, you've held the public hearing on zoning map amendment 2024-01, the application from Donna and Gregory Only. I didn't say that name right. I apologize. Sorry, Kohler. Sorry. To conditionally rezone 711 Tazewell Avenue / 302 Fig Street, aka the Fig Street Inn. 3 parcels are involved, from residential 1 to commercial residential, or CR, with proffers to limit the commercial activity of said proposed rezoning of and said property as a current conditional use permit for a bed and breakfast. A public hearing was held with the Planning Commission on August 6, 2024 on this application. As a result of the discussion and comments raised at that public hearing on the conditional rezoning with the proffers the applicant had submitted at that time, the applicants went back and did a further revision to their proffer statement and provided that to the Planning Commission, which was discussed at their September 3rd, 2024 meeting, wherein the Planning Commission did take a vote on their recommendation to you. With that said, what they have done, give me a second, there's all the background here. I did provide you a analysis in the Planning Commission report and forward that to you as well of the changes they made to their proffer statement, and these were all of the items that were included. Since then, they have now submitted a revised proffer statement. There are no changes to what the Planning Commission has seen. It was just put into a template format that we have developed for the town's use for proffer statements, and that has now been provided to you. And it is done in this format because if this is accepted and approved in some form by the town council, that's a document that gets recorded with the circuit court in Eastville. So it becomes a permanent condition on the property. With that said, I just wanted to go through where the Planning Commission came in on this issue as we addressed all of the revisions to their proffer statement that they provided to the Planning Commission for their consideration. Sorry, had to get ahead a little bit. So at that meeting, Commissioner Grossman asked if this application was considered spot zoning. I indicated I did not believe so, as this application was consistent with the fact that there was already commercial zoning nearby, making it not completely out of character with this area of Fig and Tazewell. Commissioner McDonald wanted to know that because there was a wellhead on Lot J, if this would have any impact on potential rezoning. I explained that the wellhead is not applicable to rezoning. Chairman Stram followed up by asking if the well was currently active. I indicated that it may be a shallow well, but the applicant would have to speak more on that particular issue. I indicated this property is receiving municipal water and sewer service pursuant to town code requirements. They had no further questions on the application itself, and they began their discussion on the rezoning. Finally, Commissioner Grossman asked if the proffer statement was in the appropriate legal form that it comply with the correct standards. At that time, I answered that she would need to refine the proffer standards, and that is what you have before you from the applicant. On their recommendation, Commissioner Smith motioned to recommend approval of ZMA 2024-01 as presented with the amended proffers, and was seconded by Commissioner Wright. Discussion ensued on the motion, and it was as follows. Commissioner McDonald was willing to rezone just Lot A, but had concerns for the precedent it would set if they rezoned all 3 lots and there was a change of ownership down the line that wanted to develop the other lots into businesses that were out of character with the area. Commissioner Grossman did not want to rezone Lot A, as the future land use map does not reflect lots as commercial residential in this area of town, and that the historic district has to maintain its single-family residential look within the district. He was also worried that this could be the possible gateway into a transition that would be out of character with the area, and going from R1 to CR was not compatible with the area as a whole. He does not believe the comp plan supports this rezoning application. He feels that the remaining by right uses that could occur on the property could have a negative impact on this neighborhood, especially relative to the 2 lots that are not developed. As a result of that discussion on the proposed motion, Commissioner Smith then amended her motion to only recommend to conditionally rezone for Lot A, the principal lot where the actual inn sits on, with the proffer submitted and amended, and was seconded by Commissioner McDonald. It received a supportive vote with Stram, Smith, Wright, Ashworth, and McDonald voting in favor, only with Grossman voting against. So that was just to amend the motion. When they finally then took up the amended motion in total, again, it received a supportive vote with Stram, Smith, Wright, Ashworth, and McDonald voting in favor, again with only Grossman voting against the motion as a whole. So the motion was passed to recommend a conditional rezoning of Lot A from R1 to CR with the proffers original and amended from the applicant. And that is what is before you this evening. I did have some further information I wanted to raise to you in the staff report that came out as a result of the discussions from the Planning Commission. First was the question about spot zoning. I did want to indicate that no, I have not consulted with the town attorney on this because I do not have authority just to go talk to the town attorney. So I did want to raise that to you at this point. One of our reference points that we use in our office and throughout Virginia, most localities will use this as a reference document, is Albemarle County's Land Use Handbook. And again, it's a source document used when they teach the certification classes, both for planning commissioners and for the boards of zoning appeals. So I just want to make you aware this is really a credible source for us. And in it, it has a whole section that is entitled Zoning Actions That May Be Susceptible to Challenge, and it reads in its entirety about spot zoning. A spot zoning is the upzoning, allowing more intensive uses of land to a classification that is different than that of the surrounding land. The common element found in a spot zoning is the rezoning of a parcel from an original zoning classification that was identical to parcels similar in size and use and situated in close proximity to the parcel rezoned, and it provides the court statute on that. However, the fact that adjacent land is not similarly zoned does not necessarily make a rezoning a spot zoning. Illegal spot zoning occurs when the purpose of a zoning text or zoning map amendment is solely to serve the private interests of one or more landowners rather than to further the locality's welfare as part of an overall zoning plan that may include a concurrent benefit to private interests. Sorry, give me a minute.
Read that one again.
Yeah,
Read that piece again.
please.
Illegal spot zoning occurs when the purpose of a zoning text or zoning map amendment is solely to serve the private interests of one or more landowners rather than to further the locality's welfare as part of an overall zoning plan that may include a concurrent benefit to private interests. As we keep going forward, rezoning land from, in this example of this court case, rezoning land from AR to R1 was not illegal spot zoning because the rezoning was part of a continuing plan of development for the county. The community plan recognized that development in the area was inevitable. Granting the rezoning with proffers allowed the county to better protect the interests of the county than merely allowing the property to develop under its AR classification, particularly in this case where the increase in density went from 38 to 44 and the rezoning was compatible with the surrounding areas. And then their last comment is a spot zoning that is consistent with the comprehensive plan should be found to be lawful, since by being consistent with the plan, it is furthering the locality's welfare. And then my second comment, which I think I've now clarified, is on the proffer statement template form. During our Planning Commission meeting, I was asked if the proffer statements were in a form compliant with the town's requirements. I did misspeak slightly. I had developed the template form. It has never been officially adopted by this town, But we have provided the template draft form that I had developed, and the applicants have completed that again and provided that to you now for this evening's meeting. So, for your deliberations and discussions, a few items before you actually undertake those. I have provided you what your options are tonight. You can accept and adopt to rezone the applications presented by the applicants with the proffer submitted. You could accept the Planning Commission recommendation to rezone only one parcel. You could say no to all of it. You could table the matter if there was some additional considerations you need more information on to make your decisions on. So I think those are your 4 options for you this evening, and I'm happy to help you in any of those. The applicants are here as well if you wish to hear from them again this evening.
I have a question for Kate. The comments that had come up during our public hearing with regards to modifying the car, can you explain? We've talked about that before, it not being possible.
Sure. So again, if I refer back to the beginning of my staff report to you, all right, I guess this starts on page, I don't know the page numbering, I'm sorry to say, the chart. It's the best way I can say it. I have provided you a side-by-side comparison of our current zoning under the R1 and the commercial residential that's in place today in our zoning ordinance. The color scheme tells you what they have wanted to exclude from use for under their proffer statement. So I'll focus on the left side of the chart. In the R1, the permitted uses by right are, you can have a residence, you can have a church, parks and playgrounds, accessory buildings, school or municipal community center, group homes, home occupations, dog pens, or accessory dwellings by right. Those are the allowed uses by right. The conditional uses in the R1 are libraries, museums, office and meeting spaces for civic organizations for the town of Cape Charles, public utilities and services associated with that, bed and breakfast and tourist homes and those requirements that are contained therein, neighborhood community centers, swimming pools, tennis courts, basketball courts, adaptive reuse of existing structures, is a new use different than the intended use for which the structure was originally constructed. And then finally, a residential dwelling unit in a square footage above the minimum or above the maximum, below the minimum or above the maximum stated in our ordinance. Nowhere in the conditional use permit applications or uses is a bicycle shop. So a conditional use process is not open for their consideration at this property in the R1 district.
Go ahead. All right. There was mention of existing businesses on Tazewell, and I'm just asking, these are classified as home occupations?
I'd have to know which specific.
Well, it's mentioned in the report that there were, or in the application, that there were other businesses that have trucks appearing.
Yes.
I just want to make sure these are not CR properties and
Sure.
that they are home occupations.
Sure. So I don't think they are home occupations per se. So if I come back at the end of the block of Tazewell, and as you round the corner, I think they're referencing the Meatland property, where the current home of Cape Charles Custom Carts is currently operating out of the former Meatland building. So I think that is one of the indications here. Secondly, I think the next business being referenced is if you head north where the Wendell's Distributing Company is located. That's not a home business. That was a pre-existing business prior to zoning. So I think those are the two primary ones being referenced when this was being discussed.
Okay, but that's what I was trying to clarify, because it talks existing businesses on Tazewell. And that's where I'm saying we don't have any other CR other than Meatland up in the end of Tazewell, and any of the homes there.
And actually Meatland is not CR.
Okay.
It is commercial too.
Commercial C1, okay.
And where the trucking company is, the distributing company is, that's actually R1.
Okay. The elimination of by right uses that's being proposed tonight is different from what was in the planning commission.
No.
Because I see in the report here that there's 5 that are being removed. When we were in the planning commission, we talked about all the colored items here that are listed. So that's the clarification I'm looking for. In your staff reports, we talk about eliminating 5: athletic club, camera shop, newsstand, tobacco store, and video store.
Those are the additional ones that they amended in. So the total list is the antique shop, art gallery, athletic club, camera shop, candy store, dry goods store, leather goods, newsstands, tobacco store, and video store would not be,
Okay, that's in
Permitted
proper
uses.
right now.
yes.
That's-
Those were
okay.
amended into the
Yes.
new proper.
Yes, so again, they submitted 2 proffers, the original proffer and then the amended proffer. So we saw the original at your August public hearing, and the amended proffer, adding in some additional items, was discussed at your September meeting.
All right, but then we also were talking, if this was changed to a CR, under the conditional uses, they were talking about taking out a number of items there that they would eliminate.
There were 4 items: a daycare center, delicatessen, ice cream parlor, and restaurant would not be uses allowed through conditional use permit.
And again, that's in the
Yes.
proper as we are
Yes.
received tonight, okay? All right, I think that this-
I'm gonna date myself, there's a little history with some of this stuff that's been going on for, 20 years. Samples Barber Shop, which is now Kate Charles or whatever it is. We went through that where they were trying to rezone that and get a little golf cart turnaround, that got shot down.
I'm going to correct you right there. It didn't get shot down. It was withdrawn before any decision was reached by the
Because there was a
town.
lot of kickback, there was a lot of feedback.
They chose to
All right.
withdraw the application.
Second one was Miss Mary's on the corner of Peach and Jefferson. I believe it's Jefferson, right where I used to live. They tried to expand her shop into the little non-conforming lot right next door. That got shut down. I know it's before your time.
I don't know that
Date myself. So Miss Mary's shop over on Jefferson and Peach, they tried to expand that 10 years ago, 12 years ago, so she can expand her shop. That got shut down. I don't know, it was 3 or 4 years ago, we had a guy that was trying to open a bike shop, and do deliveries out of his backyard over between Graham and Helen's and where Malcolm used to live. We shot that down. We didn't want Mike, I forget his last name, but we shot that down. That came to council. We said no to that because we didn't want to start putting commercial and that. And he was going to deliver them. And then Rocco tried to, during COVID, throw up a restaurant out of his house. He got shut down because he couldn't do that. It wasn't in
I
that.
don't think he actually applied.
I know, but I'm
Right.
just saying, there's
Just to clarify.
I know, but there's
Okay.
just been a lot of not putting commercial in a residential area. So the zoning has changed a lot over the years, and there's always been a resistance to bring commercial into the residential area. It's gonna open up a can of worms. That's most of the people were stating during the, opening comments. I mean, it's my feeling. That's one of the reasons why when I started my business, it was a home business, but it clearly got larger than I needed, and it was out of the zoning rules, so I moved out. So, and that was 13 years ago. So I'm having a hard time being able to, it has nothing to do with you guys, you know that. It's just one of these things, we open this up, where's it gonna stop? That's my problem with this whole thing. To me, what I had to reread, to me, that basically was saying spot zoning. That's how I heard it, to me. That's my opinion. So, I mean, there's been a lot of history of this over the years in this town about doing stuff like this. And just the amount of people that are in that general area that are opposed to it. I mean, were there any sign-offs in the neighborhood that people were in favor of it?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, how many?
I'll be honest, I don't remember how many actually came to the August public
I was
hearing.
gonna say, it was at our public hearing that they
Yes,
read. I don't
yes.
remember how many either.
I don't remember off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
Shit, all right. And it's just like, kind of just to see how many in favor and how many were not in favor, too.
I was thinking it was 5, 6 people from
Yeah,
the scope.
I was gonna say, I probably have notes on it, but.
All right, do we want to hear from the applicants?
Sure.
If they have anything?
Yeah.
Come on up.
We ask that you speak directly to the mic.
Sure.
If you don't, we hear mumbling.
Yeah, and some of the mics are better than others,
Yeah,
so.
mine's always been terrible. But mine, I can sit here and talk into it, you still can't, nothing's coming out of the speakers. They might hear me on
Turn 'em up.
Facebook, but I hear you. I'm generally pretty loud.
Good
Donna
evening.
Kohler, 711 Tazewell Avenue, 302 Fig Street.
Greg Kohler, 711 Tazewell.
Just want to clarify, and Katie kind of already said it, is whether you agree with the process or not, this is where we are. In order for us to rent bicycles to the public, these are the steps that we have in place right now. So we are following the processes. We've gone through that. We're not trying to do something under the radar. This is what we're trying to do to rent bicycles to the public. The concerns that have been issued are not abutting neighbors. I'm not downplaying that, but they are not adjacent neighbors. I recall one adjacent neighbor who's behind us, backs up to our property, speaking on our behalf at the first Planning Commission meeting that would be in the record. In regards to the comments of the 34 rooms for rent in the 600 block, that's the 600 block. We're the 700 block. We do not see overflow. Over the summer, we took daily inventory of parking along Tazewell Avenue. It's our guests who choose not to park in our lot. And it is residents who don't have street parking, off-street parking. So, as I said, I think in a planning commission meeting, the secret is if you need a parking spot, 700 block of Tazewell is where it's going to be. So the issues along 600 block of Tazewell, I don't think should be used as justification for not considering the application. That's a whole other issue. I would argue too, as well, I understand the concern about the can of worms and opening up the precedent and everything. Again, we're going through the processes. If anyone wanted to do something within their house, I would hope that they would also follow the processes and go through the application fees, the meetings. This is not, we want to rent bicycles. We've probably already spent about $3,000 between this application and the zoning, the survey, the ads, the whole process to rent 10 bicycles total.
But to that point, to Andy, to your point of is this spot zoning? Zoning has commercial residential. This is the buffer. This is not spot zoning. We are sandwiched between Wendell's distributor and Meatland. We would be that prime example of what is supposed to be commercial residential. You can't, yes, samples for the cake shop, somebody else in the middle of R1, just somewhere in the middle of town, that would be spot zoning. But us, sandwiched between, at the end of town, two large chunks of C1 commercial, true commercial lots, where we are, right in the middle of that, when we would be CR, that is what is designed for
CR.
Commercial residential. That's already in the zoning plan. That's specifically what it's for. We have to keep the feel of the residential buildings. We can't put up a brick monstrosity and have it be a a commercial building.
We still have to follow all the residential guidelines in regards to any sort of improvement or changes we want to do. So the concern that someone's going to put up like a 3-story brick building, that should not happen. If someone goes through, has to go through all the processes of approvals. So anything that happens to the land, our house cannot get torn down and subdivided into 5 individual lots. Our house, the inn sits on 5 individual lots, and then we have the 2 extra. That's why we have the A, I, and J. So it's not like someone can knock down the house and put up 5 individual businesses. It all has to follow, Mr. Grossman spoke about that residential look. That has to be maintained for anything that goes on that lot. I don't know if you all have any specific questions. This was all because we asked about renting bicycles out, and it turned into, the only way you can do it is if you are CR, and if you are CR, these are some of the things that you could be able to do. And it just got us to thinking about our long-term plans here in Cape Charles with 2 teenagers who are growing older and will be out of college at some point, and if we can give them an opportunity to start a business like a day spa or a salon that would be a lower impact business. We're not an, no offense to any ice cream shop, we're not an ice cream shop with 50 people waiting in line. Any businesses that I believe are still on the table, those are all scheduled appointment. And any building, again, would have to go through the plan for residential approval, look and feel, and the town would require them to put in off-street parking. So in regards to the parking issue, I really do understand the can of worms thing. But we do have the processes in place to prevent that. Whether other applicants, other residents choose to follow that, that's on them. We're going with the system that we have in place. So,
could I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Absolutely.
So, you have offered proffers.
Yes.
So, Katie outlined the council's options. One of the options is to approve your application as presented, which would include
all 7.
which would include the proffers that you offered. Another option for the council is to consider the planning commission's recommendation, which would only be parcel A. Would you still offer those same proffers if the council were to only approve A, or would you pull the proffers if they did that option?
We were under the assumption that the proffers were the proffers.
The proffer, yeah.
I
don't think we could change
I don't
that.
think we're allowed to change proffers at this point. That would be a,
Just so it's clear what he's indicating, your proffers are tied to the rezoning request of all 3 lots.
understood.
And so he's asking if the town council does not consider a rezoning of all 3 lots, but only 1 lot where the inn is located itself.
Would those proffers stay in place?
There you go.
Yeah.
I would assume so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that motion would have to be amended to include the proffers as stated.
Yeah, you can,
To the lot A.
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to
Yeah.
technical point for the council. Thank you.
right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anybody else have questions?
I don't have any questions. I find it phenomenal that a request to have bicycle rentals has gotten to this 70-page document that we read before we came to this meeting, and is still unsolved. And the only way to solve it is to rezone this piece of property, which is in a residential area, which I have absolutely no issues with approving a bicycle rental business or a gift shop, but I do have some reservations about rezoning this whole piece of property or even the parcel A to CR for the reasons that have been stated by many others. So again, I find it phenomenal that we cannot work with these folks to allow them to have a bicycle rental business. And we
Added to their current
to
condition.
be added to something. I mean, if it's not a current conditional use, there must be something that can be done that is easier than this and less contentious or more palatable
We
than
would have, we
this.
would have done it if we could. I mean, I
Oh, I
run a
get
golf
that.
cart right now.
That's
but I
my
can't
whole point.
Run a bike.
Katie, I have a question kind of related to that. Can they do a home occupation solely for bicycle rental as a piece of that?
No,
Is home occupation
because home
under a whole
occupation has a
series
whole
of
different
things?
connotation, which really is, it's meant to be more low-key, with actually no visitors coming to your premises at all doing business. That you really have no commercial activity occurring, it's more, you're
What if
gonna
they
run a
delivered?
CPA.
What if all the bicycles were delivered and nobody was coming to the location? Because, I mean, we have a business in town that does that. They deliver them all. You don't.
And that could be, but that's not the model here, because they have an active business that's for a bed and breakfast in the R1. The bicycle shop would not be in a home business, and if there's a home business of that occurring in this community, they didn't go through any process through
The
zoning.
one I'm talking about is not home business. I'm sorry. I didn't
Sorry.
imply that. No, it's not.
So I'd like their name and number.
That's how rumors get started around here. No, it's not a home business. Sorry.
If I may, to comment back on Mr. Bennett's point, you see what the zoning ordinance says. The left side of the chart is the zoning ordinance today. So you asked, can't there be an easier way? Okay, you tell me if this is really easier. You could amend the zoning text to add this as a conditional use in the R1 district, which then would allow any property in the R1 district the right to apply for it. So it would no longer just be a singular consideration for this parcel, you'd be adding text that you'd have to consider the impact across the entire R1 district, and would you really want that at every property in the R1 district?
Could be, did you say as a by right or conditional use?
Conditional use permit
So anyone that wanted it would have to apply.
would have to apply. So
So-
there are ways, but I'm just
so, you know, we-
putting that into your mindset, how long it's taking us to amend the zoning ordinance so far.
I get that. You know, I totally get that.
And that's a 400-plus page document at this
this-
point in time.
The alternative there, if you went that route to amend the R1 conditional uses, would be, well, why are you limited to bicycles? People will come up with, mopeds. Well, I don't-
And then you're setting the precedent, if you were to do it, setting the precedent for us, so how do you deny others? So you could have, 500 homes
Renting
renting
bicycles.
bicycles.
It was Philip Mooring, I believe, who was shot down before.
He's been thinking.
Yeah.
If you were looking for that reference, I couldn't find it, but I know we did it.
Because you referenced precedent setting, I really want to walk away from that term. That's not appropriate in any of these discussions, because every zoning application is singular, unique, and gets reviewed based upon its location and the content of its application and what it's trying to achieve, and where that fits in the context of our comprehensive plan, in our land use plan, and where we are in the zoning ordinance as well. So I reference that because we have allowed other changes to occur in our residential 1 district to go commercial. We just recently approved one last year of the hotel, I always get these names mixed up, Cape Charles Hotel. The lot behind it was an R1. We amended it and allowed that to be rezoned to go C1. So I don't want to sit there and say that sets precedent for them. That was a unique circumstance associated with that application, the location of those parcels, and they also put proffers out that made it more amenable for consideration by this board, which you accepted. So I don't think that sets precedent for any other property in town. It was unique to that property, same as this one is unique to this property.
Could I make one rebuttal statement?
No. Anything else?
Well, you're gonna open it up to discussion?
We haven't had a
Well, we
motion
haven't had a
yet.
motion yet.
Okay.
So if no other comments, can I get a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to deny the application for all 3 properties.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on denying all three properties.
Yeah, let me provide the basis, and then I go back through some of my planning commission stuff. So as we were reading in spot zoning there, one of the phrases, rezoning should be consistent with the policies and land use designations set out in the comp plan. So when you go to our comp plan, we have extracted into report here for the historic district residential intent on flexibility in use. But when you really go down to the functions, two functions, to meet single-family residential character of the historic district, we all know that. And the other one was to allow a diverse mixture of compatible recreational, government, and residential uses that currently exist in the historic district. So we recognize that there are other things in the district. Doesn't say we're gonna grow. When it goes to the preferred uses, we talk about the designation of land should be primarily used as single-family dwelling. Uses that support the civic and recreational needs of the town residents should be compatible with the existing residential character of the area. Infill development should be compatible with existing residential structures. So that's coming right out of our comp plan. And when you go to our future land use map, it clearly shows there was no thought in this area to grow anything relative to commercial. In it, it's all residential, R1. The time to think about growing in this area was during comp plan development. And yes, we can revise the comp plan as needed, but we did not think about it at that time, figuring it's all residential. The way I look at this is plopping down in the middle of residential, and yes, we do have commercial, but it's not contiguous to these properties, nor do we have any thoughts to grow this area into a commercial residential area. So this is going to be plopped down in the middle of residential, and yes, there will be some commercial in the vicinity, but it's not our intent to grow that particular area. To me, this serves the interest of a particular party rather than furthering the locality's welfare. And you can heard tonight some of the public comments that were all opposed or saying it's precedent setting, should we take this on. Even on the inn, if we were to allow that to go to our CR, it allows a conversion of that inn to any one of these commercial commercial by rights or come back to conditional use permits. So, you know, even there, I'm not looking to have that go to CR because it allows in the future, any time, to go to any one of these other by rights or conditional use permits. So again, if adopted, this changes, this change would impact our future land use map and the historic district residential functions, and I don't think we're looking to rewrite this to be more flexible to allow more CR into the residential district. And you can talk about precedent setting, and I look and you can say, fine, yes, I agree, each one is on its own merits. But again, if you put this in this particular location, people can say, oh, I'm near there and I can see you're looking to grow this particular area into commercial, and I'd like to get on that bandwagon as well. So therefore, I feel that I can't support this particular application for all three properties.
Get something up.
I do want to make you aware, just because there is a provision in our ordinance that indicates for a rezoning application of any kind, the applicants actually have the ability to poll the application before you take a vote. There's consideration for that because any negative vote by the board on an application cannot come back up for reconsideration by the property owner for 12 months. So I think they may want to speak with you one more time before you actually take a vote on the proposed motion. Okay?
Thank you.
Listening to what Mr. Grossman has been talking about, I want to bring up what's going to happen on Monday. We have a large discussion on short-term rentals, which has been a major concern and probably the number one priority, if not I believe it's the number one priority of this town. We're talking about the intent is not to grow businesses in residential areas. Short-term rentals and vacation rentals are businesses. So and I'm looking at Tammy, we have a very different, as we are a commercial entity. And it is a different level. We pointed this before, we have to provide off-street parking. We have to live in the property. We have to go through Department of Health inspections, VABC inspections. There's countless, we have to have fire control systems. There's a large level of formality that we need to go to be a commercial entity. Owner occupied. I have to live in the house. The code actually says in the house. I can't live on property. I have to live in the structure. We've been doing that for 14 years. So we're using the argument of not intent to grow businesses in the residential area. I would argue that if that is the case, then the short-term rental discussion on Monday is you could not approve short-term rental as a by right use in the residential area.
It's been going on for 100 years.
I understand that, but maybe they need to go through a conditional use permit.
But then we might as well turn around and do long-term rentals. It's the same thing, because actually the only difference between the two is the state and the town require you to get a business license to collect tax.
Right.
That's the only difference.
Right.
I've said that from the beginning, that I felt like short-term rentals should go through a conditional.
A condition, and I understand that that's hundreds of applications, and that is a process that is going to, I can't even fathom how that would take place. But we have two businesses in town, two beds and breakfasts, which go through hoops to be legitimate, to operate, and again, all we want to do is rent bikes. And if it boils down to, if the argument is the intent is not to grow businesses in the residential area, you cannot approve short-term rentals as a by right use in the R1 district I would say on Monday, but who knows? You're setting the precedent right now for that. So if the leaning is towards adding that as a by right use, then I would suggest reconsidering the motion to allow us, Lot A, to have the CR designation and do the bike rentals. And we understand that's a whole different process that we have to go through again and pay more money, so get that.
So just to be clear with what you're asking or stating now, are you wanting us to go forward with the vote on this evening?
I do not
or-
want to go through I do not want to go through a vote on Mr. Grossman's motion, because if we do, I will have to pull my application, because if that does not pass, if that gets rejected, then we have to wait a whole other year before we can possibly consider something else.
Well, the motion has been made and it's been seconded, so you would have to pull the application now or we'd have to vote.
Then,
Right now is the point of
This is the
decision
time.
for you.
then I've made my point about the short-term rentals, and we are going to pull our application.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And I do want to thank Katie for all the work her office gave us, Tracy and Jack. Tremendous help in walking us through the process and getting us to this point, so thank you.
Thank you. Noted. Okay, that motion is off the table as the application has been removed. Next, 2025 budget amendment, Cape Charles Volunteer Fire Company grant.
So, Mr. Mayor, this is a follow-up to our discussion last month when you gave me direction to bring this back. So we discussed this last time. You authorized to approve the proposal made by the Cape Charles Fire Company to grant them the $250,000 now for them to acquire a target of opportunity purchase for their fire truck. So this is just the budget amendment that's required due to its small size. It did not require a public hearing, and it's offered for your approval.
Make a motion that we approve the proposed budget amendment appropriating an additional $250,000 for the fire company.
Second.
So, being seconded, is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Okay, real property transactions required to connect new wells to the water plant.
So this is an ongoing cleanup item as a result of the sale of the utilities. As part of the post-closing agreement, there were still some additional actions that had to take place. As you know, we were already engaged in trying to get the Keck wells connected to the water plant and to return a finished water line back to the site for future development. Although we've provided the design for that, there are still some easements that need to be conveyed to Virginia American Water. So those are provided to you here by resolution. There's also an easement of town property that needs to be conveyed via ordinance. And as you may recall, as we were coordinating property to get across, there was a little bit of Bay Creek property that we had to cross. And rather than try to get an easement through that, they had decided to just give us the property. So what this does is gets the property from Bay Creek to us, and then from us to Virginia American Water. That also requires an ordinance. So all of these are provided for your consideration and approval. I will make the note that there's been some confusion in the past about what constitutes a majority. Sometimes it's the majority of the entire council. Sometimes it's the majority of just those present. This requires a majority of council. Therefore, it requires 4 positive votes to pass.
Thank you.
Should we make a motion before questions?
Yes, please.
Oh, go ahead. You gonna make a motion?
No, go ahead.
I had a question.
Oh, I have questions too, so I'll make a motion.
We need a motion in a second.
Well, it's 3 resolutions, so we have to take these individually.
Probably cleanest, yes. It'd be cleanest.
All right, so I'll start with, I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 2024-1017A.
Second.
All right, so the question is, this gets us out to Stone Road. Are there other, go ahead.
Refer to the map from the water plant, we go out to VDOT right away. So then it goes east. There's no easement needed for that. That's a land use permit.
That's what my question was. As I come down Stone Road, it's an easement?
No, it's land use. It's VDOT right away, so we get a permit from VDOT.
Okay, that was my question.
VW.
Okay.
So it goes there and then goes south. That's the first easement, south.
Okay.
And these resolutions, I mean, we're getting the easements, and then the resolutions are transferring the easements from the town to Virginia American Water.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. The other thing is, crossing Cassette Parkway, is that intended to be to cut the street or bore under it?
I think it's a bore, yeah.
Any other discussion? All right, so I move for adoption of ordinance 2024-10.
No, we did the resolution first.
What's that?
The current motion is for the resolution.
Yeah.
1017A.
That's what I'm doing. This is 1017A.
You said ordinance, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, it does say
Well,
ordinance.
there is an ordinance and a resolution, with the same number, so yeah.
Who's on first?
I started with a resolution.
Oh, they are. All right, here we go. I move for adoption of resolution 2024-1017A, approving the acceptance of assignment of certain easements related to the sale of the Town of Cape Charles waterworks system and wastewater system to Virginia American Water as noted, and forego the reading of this resolution. It requires a roll call vote. Bennett?
Yes.
Buckholz?
Yes.
Buda?
Yes.
Grossman?
Yes.
Holloway?
Yes.
Okay, that resolution.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2024-1017A. Ordinance.
Second.
All right, motion and second. Is there any discussion on the ordinance? All right, so I move for adoption of ordinance 2024-1017A granting easement on tax parcel 9019B to Virginia American Water Company as noted, and forego the reading of the ordinance. Roll call vote. Holloway?
Yes.
Grossman?
Yes.
Buda?
Yes.
Buchholz?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance.
And the last one, I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2024-10-17.
Resolution first.
No, it's an ordinance.
You got too many papers.
Good gracious.
Ordinance 2024-10-17B.
Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? All right, so I move for adoption of ordinance 2024-1017B, accepting conveyance of the portion of the tax parcel 9030 P11 from Bay Creek Development LLC and conveying such property to Virginia American Water as noted and forego the reading of the ordinance. Bennett?
Yes.
Buchholz?
Yes.
Buda?
Yes.
Grossman?
Yes.
Holloway?
Yes.
All right. That ordinance passes. And finally, let's see. That was it.
That's it for that item, yes, sir.
All right, now we've got depository account bank change.
So as you are aware, we have a new bank coming to town. Taylor Bank is under construction as we speak. So we reached out to them and to discuss what services they could provide the town. And the treasurer and I met with the representatives, and they presented a very favorable proposal, which I included in the packet, which shows not only would our fees be, about 2/3 less, but more importantly, we have the potential to earn a much greater rate of return on our deposits on file, on account. So they actually have someone set up who can provide interim service for us immediately until the bank gets built. So we could do this right away and have someone who can come down from the closest bank right now, which is in Ancock, until they're up and running probably first quarter next year, end of first quarter next year, I think, is when they're targeting. So there was some ambiguity about whether this actually required council's approval or not, but I figured it's safer to just do it this way. The resolution is something that banks often require in order to set up signatory accounts. So this is just to make sure our bases are covered and make sure that you were aware of it and that you approved. So I recommend approval of a resolution that will allow us to transfer our banking to Taylor Bank.
Okay, make a motion, we approve Resolution 2024-1017B, authorizing change of depository accounts to Taylor Bank.
All right, properly motion and second. Is there any discussion on moving banks? All right, so I move for adoption of Resolution 2024-1017B to move the Municipal Corporation of Cape Charles depository accounts to Taylor Bank as noted, and forego reading of the resolution. Requires a roll call vote. Bennett?
Yes.
Buchholz?
Yes.
Buda?
Yes.
Grossman?
Yes.
Holloway?
Yes.
All right, that resolution carries. All right, reappointment of planning commissioners.
So we have two commissioners that are up for reappointment, Bill Ashworth and Ian McDonald. Both have indicated their willingness to continue to serve. We thank them for their service and request that you reappoint them.
Yeah, I make a motion that we reappoint Bill Ashworth and Ian McDonald to the Planning Commission for a full 4-year term each.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, reappointment of Board of Zoning Appeals member.
And same for the Board of Zoning Appeals. Laura Weingard was appointed to fill an interim seat, and that seat is now expired. She has graciously offered to continue serving, and we recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion, or that carries unanimously.
Yay.
All right. And Mr. Hosey, comments this evening?
Okay, not too much. We were all at the VML conference this week. Not the best of the conferences that I've been to, but they're always very valuable. Well, I think we all came away with more information than we went there with. It's a good networking opportunity, and so time well spent. I'm excited to announce that I've hired a new assistant to the town manager, events coordinator. It's Courtney Neal. She started this afternoon for a few hours, and so she'll be getting up to speed here in the next couple of weeks. I laid on the table our first status report from Baker Tilly. They're just now starting to get rolling. You can see on there all the places that they have listed the recruitment to include over 9,000 direct mails. And we were already, with less than a week on, they have already received 6 applications.
Okay.
So off to the races there. We'll be getting those status reports regularly. Also, just FYI, been spent the last couple of days interviewing the harbor positions, and that's going very well. So I'm optimistic about that, and hopefully we'll be making some decisions on that in the next week or two. Other than that, there's a lot there in the announcement section that you're about to read, Mr. Mayor, so I won't go too far into that. We do have the Beachfront Master Plan next Wednesday, which is an unusual night for us, so I'm just calling that out. Also, for the November 7th meeting, special meeting that we agreed to appoint to fill the vacancy on town council following the election, since we're meeting anyway, I'd like to make the most out of that meeting. It's that time of year again. So I'm thinking we might come out of the special meeting and go into work session to go over this year's citizen survey. So I need to start putting that together. We're getting close. So if you have any thoughts or ideas in advance about questions for that survey, please get them to me so I can prepare something for that meeting. We may also be doing an executive session that night. I'm not sure yet, so it may not be a fast meeting, is what I'm saying. When we scheduled it, it was going to be a quick meeting. I'm gonna make the most of it.
And I will now no longer be able to make that meeting on the 7th, just to let you know.
Okay.
Please, Steve.
All right. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
We're getting as much out of you as we can before the end.
Absolutely.
Question, the harbor masters, have you finished your interviews or no? You have more?
There's potentially, I've got one more set of interviews on Tuesday.
Another set, okay.
Mm-hmm. And that should wrap it up.
But the ones I've interviewed so far is encouraging.
Good.
Council have any comments this evening?
I was just going to ask John, I know you gave us the timeline for the town manager and the document that Baker Tilly did. Is that going to be on the website, our website somewhere?
Well, the brochure certainly is. I think it is, right? Yeah, that's already on there, right? But when we posted the position last Friday, yes.
It's on there under the employment opportunities right now.
Yeah.
Is there a way we can kind of put it on the, so that people, we had a lot of people ask about it last night at a candidate forum, and I referenced it, and I don't know that they would go to look deep in. Can we put it on the bottom somewhere or link it in the?
Yeah, I can add it to the news page, but it'll.
Yeah, that's
go off
fine.
If anything
Yeah.
new being added.
Yeah.
New stuff gets.
And then maybe just reference it in the, I didn't read this week's report yet, so if it's in there.
It is in
I
there.
apologize.
In my report, but we could also make mention of it in the next Gazette too.
Yeah, just to link to it, because I think, number one, it's a great document. I think it's really impressive, and the timeline helps our residents and citizens know what that timeline is, and that we are, taking this very seriously and moving forward and on all of those things, so.
For anyone who's listening, so you're not kept in suspense. So I'm scheduled to retire mid-May next year. So we are hoping to have someone identified by mid-April next year. So there's a 1-month overlap, and that person can go through the budget cycle with me before I would depart. So we have plenty of time to do this between now and a start date that doesn't begin until next April.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. That being said, just some announcements for October, November. 21st is the Planning Commission and Town Council joint public hearing. 22nd is the Cape Charles Rotary Club Candidates Forum. The 23rd, Town Council work session, Beachfront Master Plan. November 5th, offices will be closed for Election Day. The 7th, as Mr. Hosey mentioned, will be the special meeting. November 9th, as we were saying, and it'll be out there a lot more, we've got the Dock Dog events in the park once again. November 11th, town offices closed for Veterans Day. And then November 21st, will be the town council regular meeting. And with that being said, if I could get a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All right. We are adjourned.